Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. Before we head into the two public hearings, I will ask the clerk to conduct the roll call, please.
Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite,
Melly Garthwaite, Council at Large, present.
Councilman Brian Locks,
Brian Locks, Council at Large, present.
Councilwoman Ann Heffernan,
Councilwoman Ann Heffernan, 1st District here.
Councilwoman Michelle Coletti,
Councilwoman Michelle Coletti, present.
Councilwoman Sarah Ekberelli is absent. Councilman Gary Donovan,
Councilman Gary Donovan, 4th District, present.
Councilman Edward McMillan,
Councilman Edward McMillan, 5th District, present.
Councilwoman Dawn Callahan,
Councilwoman Dawn Callahan, 6th District, present.
Councilwoman Catherine Tucker is absent. Councilman Christopher Vargo,
Councilman Christopher Vargo, 8th District, present.
Councilwoman Katie Muller,
Councilwoman Katie Muller, 9th District, present.
Councilman Stephen Johnstone,
Councilman Stephen Johnstone, 10th District, present.
and Chairman Nicholas Pascal.
Chairman Nicholas Pascal, present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The time is 6:56, and we will open up the public hearing on regarding Communication C from the May 28, 2024 agenda from Ronald Dumas, CDA Housing Specialist, regarding the Neighborhood Assistance Program budget. And is there anybody from the public who would like to address the City Council on that topic? For a second time, is there anyone from the public who would like to address the City Council? For the third and final time, would anybody from the public like to address the City Council? Seeing none, public hearing is closed at 6:57. Time is 6:57, and the public hearing on Finance Committee regarding Communication D from the May 28, 2024 agenda from Mark Bisacchia, Manager of the Community Development Administration, regarding Block Grant Program Year 50 budget. Would anybody from the public like to address the City Council on that matter? For a second time, would anybody from the public like to address the City Council? For a third and final time, would anybody like to address the City Council? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. The time is 6:58. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We have about 2 minutes before we start the regular council meeting, just because it starts at 7. So we will now enter into public session. The time is 7 o'clock. Tonight, we really like to adhere to our council rules of procedure for public comment because we have a lot of discussion going on the topics tonight, as evidenced earlier on this evening. So would anyone like to speak before the city council? For this, Miss? Yes. Name and address for the record, please.
Okay. My name is Margaret Ashley, 1 Sanford Street, West Haven, Connecticut. Believe it or not, this is the 3rd month I'm here for the same thing. And I thought that I would hear something from somebody by now, but I haven't. I want to know what's going on. I had a meeting with my council person. We talked. And I've been coming, like I said, 3 months. It shouldn't take 3 months to give me a reply about the water that we had on Sanford Street, and that I asked for soil because of the flood we had years ago. I think it was 2012, and because the drains was clogged up with leaves. That's because my property, the flood in the back. All I'm asking for, come and replace the soil. I don't think that's hard. Years ago, when I had a problem, and it was, let me give you the mayor. Louis Esposito was the representative. When we had gas in our soil, Esposito was there. He stayed with us until they remedied the problem. He made sure that we received water. He made sure that we received city lines going through our streets. It was already on the street. They piped it out to our house. So now we have city water. Second time I had a problem, I came and Mayor O'Brien was the mayor and had a problem with trees growing over the limbs and stuff in the street, and it was on the lines. And I asked him to remove it because I was afraid if we have a storm that it would take down the limbs and we wouldn't have no power. And then my insurance company, my sidewalk was cracking up, breaking up. And I asked him to repair it because I got a letter from my insurance company saying that it needs to be repaired. He got the job done. Okay? So now I'm here again, and it takes 3 months. It only took 1 month to tell them that. And they got it done. I don't know why it's so hard for somebody to come and talk to me or get this problem solved. It's not that hard. Not to me, because dirt is dirt. You can get a lot of dirt and just take it and fill in the lots so we don't have the problem where the water is running downhill and we got a pond in the back of my yard. And also, I also talked about a neighbor at 156 Daytona Street. He got lines from his drain coming down, running down towards our property. I don't think that's right. And I also made a statement about that 3 months ago. And I think somebody should have said something to me or to him, or have somebody come out and look at it. Then we won't have a pond in our yard every time it rains. And every time it rains, we lose more dirt. Now, there's another thing going on. I'm your eyes and ears. Because if I see something going on wrong, I'm going to come down here and tell you about it. We have a light out on the corner of Daytona and Sanford. It needs to be fixed. So I'm saying this, and I'm hoping that this time I would hear from somebody. I talked to our councilperson, Mackey. He came by and he looked at it. He gave you all the paperwork that I have. I think it would be nice if somebody would come and talk to me about it. I pay my taxes. If I didn't pay my taxes, I wouldn't be at 1 Sanford Street. And my taxes is paid on time, and I think I'm due the same thing. Respect me enough to come and talk to me about these problems and let me show them to you. Because I've been here 30 some years. That's a long time. Okay, so if we can get together and get this Remy, I don't think soil is that hard to do. I'm not asking you to tear down a wall. I'm just saying bring some soil and get that straightened out and get this thing straightened out with this 156 Daytona that has these pipes running down towards me and my neighbor's property. And then we got a pond. I don't think it's fair to us. So I would appreciate it if you come and talk to me or come get that, remedy that problem. Okay? And I hope that we get a light on the light post on the corner of Daytona and Sanford. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman McMillan, meet me after the meeting. We'll discuss this. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak before the City Council? For the second time, would anyone like to speak before the City Council?
Good evening. My name is Rich Hebert. I live at 166 Bloom Street. Just a couple of things. One is the continuing issue about potholes. They're all over the city. And, you know, like this lady was just complaining, I think we need some sort of a system here where a registered complaint is acknowledged and somebody gets back to people about what's being done, about whatever problem might be related to the city. Because it doesn't seem to go anywhere. People answer the phone, they promise you something, but nothing seems to really happen. And I know there's probably a lot of reasons for it, but I'm sure we can do better. The other thing that I was interested in, because I was able to attend the Water Pollution Commission, I guess it is, water pollution. It seems that we have some equipment that's not functioning. And that's a big part of our budget. And if we have equipment that's not working, and I know there's licenses and other things that are involved, but that's a piece of equipment that we could utilize. And we have to be aware that all the trash expenses are going up, whether it's hauling or all those different articles that are involved with that. I think it needs a lot more attention, and there's a lot of money that's involved with that. We attended presentations that explained about putting in a new outflow pipe and hardening the main pumping station and the pumping station down on the water. Those are millions and millions of dollars. And I'd be interested in knowing, where does that stand? What seems to be the holdup? Because things aren't getting any better. And the sea is rising. And you can just look out and you can see it. So those are just my items of curiosity, and hopefully somebody can address those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak before the City Council? For a second time? Miss?
Hello, everyone. My name is Vanita Lambert, and I reside at 33 Sanford Street. So I would like to just commend everyone, first of all, that was involved in the Juneteenth celebration at Watt Park. And I was a vendor there. It was really, really nice. I am also involved. I'm on the Juneteenth committee at Bridgeport, and I was surprised to hear that this was our 4th year. I didn't know about it. I've known for 2 years. So as a vendor, of course, I'm prospecting and talking to everybody that walks by. So some people were saying to me that this one lady said, I thought it was a private party. I wasn't sure if I should come or not. And then I was right across from a couple of officers that brought big, huge boxes of the really nice, expensive bike helmets with the lights on the back. I got one for myself and my husband, but they brought so many of them, they had to take them back because there weren't enough people to give them out to. They took boxes back. So my point is, I mean, as nice as it is, I think we need to bring this to the green and get the entire city of West Haven involved. How many people knew about the Juneteenth celebration in here? There you go. What's that? 50%. If you put it on the green, you're going to get West Haven involved, not just a small community. It's at Watt Park, and if you've been there, it's tiny. It's also there's no parking, there's no handicap parking. It's inaccessible. I live on Sanford Street. It was on Tile Street. If you know how close that is, me and my husband had trouble getting there. And so everything is blocked off. It's kind of like a little private thing, but it needs to be brought to the city of West Haven. That would, we could get food trucks involved, get the entire community. That's where we have all the big events, the Puerto Rican parade, the Italian, everything is brought down to the green. And this way you can advertise it. People on my street did not know about it, and we're 3 streets away. So, and we're a year away from it. And I know that Robin Hamilton is the president or CEO. She does everything, and that might be a tall order for her. So, I'm willing to be on the committee to help get some of these things done because it's a huge celebration. It would help put West Haven on the map, and it would help, get the entire community together, unite everybody, and God knows we need that. Need that more than everything. And I brought, and I'll give this to you, Mackie, just a copy. I am a parade marshal in the Bridgeport Juneteenth. We have a grand marshal, a parade marshal. We have a whole calendar of events. There's a bunch of fundraisings and raising and opportunities for vendors and just everybody to bring West Haven together. I think that would be a great event on the green. We added to our summer calendar or calendar of events so that I don't know if it goes out online or wherever it goes, everybody would get a copy of it. And even if they didn't know about it, if you're downtown New Haven or West Haven and you're just driving by, you'll see that something's going on. You might like the beat of the music and just come over and see what's going on. So that's all I have today. Oh, and I would like a calendar of the meetings whenever we get a chance. This way I can get my neighborhood involved so that, we do. I heard a gentleman speak about the trash. Yeah, there's a lot of trash in West Haven. So we definitely need to do something about that. I don't know what we could do, put bird watching cameras or whatever, but I go to the gym like early in the morning. I've seen people drive through Daytona Street, it runs parallel with the post road, and just throw out a McDonald's bag or a whole trash and just keep driving. So it's not us littering in our neighborhoods, it's people going through. So what do you do about that? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. Okay. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak before the city council? Second time?
Hello.
Hi.
Vanessa Suarez, 740 Quinnipiac Ave, New Haven, Connecticut. I want to start off today by sharing a quote by Bell Hooks. Patriarchal violence is when men do whatever it takes to maintain their controlling position and power. It's when they yell to control and subordinate. It's when they lie or arbitrarily enforce rules. And I'm sharing this with you today because it's actually really hard for me to be here today. Not because of anything you all have done to me, but because as we have been advocating for Roya Mohammadi and for a fair investigation into her death, we have been going to the police commission meetings. And in the meeting last Tuesday, frankly, the best way I can put it was Chairman Collins just quite frankly lost his shit on me. And he was very disrespectful.
Please watch your language, yes. Please watch your language when you're at the podium.
Okay, well, under normal circumstances, I would not cuss, but like I said, I don't know how else to put it. Because, and I say this frankly because I did not provoke him or his response, his reaction. We went to him to express that we were very upset and that Roya's family was also very upset at the fact that in the meeting before that, we were prohibited from saying Roya's name. Chairman Collins told us that because of Robert's rules, all of a sudden we are no longer allowed to say Roya Mohammadi's name. But we have been coming repeatedly to meetings for months, here, there, saying her name without a problem. There has never been a confrontation. There has never been any escalation issues. There's no problem when we say her name, and frankly, we need to say her name because we're advocating for her. She is dead, and if she hadn't been killed, we wouldn't need to be here every single week at every single meeting, and if her death was fairly investigated, if there was an arrest, then we wouldn't have to be here. But we continue to show up for Roya's family, but for ourselves as well. Many of us who show up for Roya are victims, are survivors. I myself am a survivor of domestic violence. I'm a survivor of sexual violence. It's why I do this work. It's why I show up for other women. Showing up for Roya is the least that I can do, given that she's dead. Given the fact that she was so vocal in her life and denounced her abuser. And still, there's no arrest, despite that she named him and said she feared for her life. And so I frankly don't think that it's okay the way Chairman Collins spoke to me. You can see the video. It's on our page. It's gotten over 5,000 views. And, you know, I think what's very interesting is that I've even gotten responses from former West Haven residents who live in various parts of the country whose first reaction to this was they were so in shock and disgusted, and also said that it's crazy how we're being yelled at to enforce Robert's rules, and in the process, Chairman Collins violated Robert's rules over 1,000 times. And that was directly said to me by an attorney who now lives out of state and was a West Haven resident. And so I'm sharing this because I don't want to normalize this kind of behavior. I hope that none of you do. We've come here week to week and you've asked us, you know, what can we do? And I know you can't actively do something with a police investigation. The police must do that. And that is why we continue to show up. But I do hope that you do speak to your colleagues, that you do speak to other West Haven officials about this, because this is not the way that women should be treated. This is not the way survivors deserve to be treated. We have gone through way too much to survive. I personally have fought for years to rid myself of violent men. And the way that Chairman Collins spoke to me was very traumatizing. It was very triggering as well to have someone scream at me and fiercely bang their gavel while they're doing it. I've come here week to week. I've seen West Haven residents here express discontent and disagreement with with how government is run. And I've never seen you, Mr. Chairman, lose it on anyone. I've never seen you yell at anyone. I've seen you always conduct yourself in a professional way, which is what should be expected. And that is not how Chairman Collins conducted himself. And I was not apologized to in the moment either, which further affirms that he just did not care about how he spoke to me. And frankly, his colleagues in that moment also did not care, because I was told to calm down, but he was never told to calm down. He was never said, hey guys, let's take a minute, let's take a breather. No, everyone just allowed him to yell at me. And so I don't think that's okay. I don't want to normalize that behavior for other women, because it is important, and women have been coming here. You have seen a few women come with me week to week. It's very hard for survivors to advocate. Most of them don't tell you that they're survivors when they come here, but they are. And so it's really hard. Women want to show up for other women. And, this kind of violence does not make it safe for other women. In that meeting, I had 2 women present with me. One of them was a West Haven resident. And she, in that moment, expressed feeling very unsafe by the way that Chairman Collins reacted. And I think that is a very important feedback that you should all be aware of, too, of how he made other women feel in that moment. Not just myself. And it's really disappointing, because that day, too, it was only the 3 of us there. And so I also shared with them when we started that we record all of the times that we come to these hearings, because the family wants to be involved in this process. And so we share for transparency. And even in sharing that, it did not stop Chairman Collins from reacting that way. So I
Sorry,
thought that was
Chairman.
very
Point of order.
shocking.
Ma'am, and believe me, you don't know me. I really do empathize. But if you can just say commissioner or chairman, because that gentleman is not here to defend himself, rebut, or anything, I'd rather you just say commissioner.
I don't understand why.
That's just the rules.
These are arbitrary rules that are being arbitrarily enforced, and this is why we got into conflict in the commissioners meeting, because all of a sudden we can't say Roya's names.
You can say Roya's name. She's unfortunately not with us, which is very sad. But I don't mean to discuss, but that's Robert's rules. I just want to make sure.
Right. I think at this point, we've already been through about 5 minutes of her speaking, and I think we know what the point is, but we'll get with the attorneys and see in the future if that's something we have to stick to, because I really don't know the answer to that.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Suarez. Keep fighting your fight. Would anyone else like to speak before the city council? For the second time, would anyone like to speak before the city council? Oh.
Good evening, Paul M. Frozalone, 19 Bloom Street. I agree with Mr. Herbert. We've been talking about potholes in this town for months, years. Last year on 2nd Avenue was brutal. Morris Street was brutal. Bloom Street was brutal. And I think this is going to be my third administration coming in front and saying every pothole should be filled by June 1st. There's no reason why, especially the mild winters that we've had the last couple of years. We used to have a pothole machine, and it was never maintained properly by our Public Works Department, unfortunately. The O'Brien administration did borrow Milford's pothole filling machine a few times, but we had to supply the asphalt. There's definitely a process, and there's definitely no reason why we have to be having residents coming up and addressing potholes in June. But thinking about potholes, so last year we had numerous people, veterans of our military, come here, complain about potholes, very sincere residents, almost emotionally crying about the potholes, the noise when trucks hit the potholes in front of their street. And the previous administration neglected potholes on 5 Rock Street. Okay, 5 Rock Street goes between Jimmy's Restaurant and the Conference Center. And I was involved with filling some of those potholes with cold patch because the previous administration was against filling them because the restaurant owners were fighting the potential of the magnitude of the size of the brewery. Now, these comments I'm going to make are all from Paul M. Frozalone. I do not represent any entity, any individual, or any corporation. There's not one person here that's more knowledgeable about what goes on in West Haven besides probably me and Nick. Okay? I talk to both sides of the aisle almost 20 hours a day. My phone starts going off at 5:30 in the morning. So let's go back to the previous administration. The lights on 5 Rocks, going to 5 Rock Street, been out. They were fixed for 6 weeks out of 52 weeks. They were going on and off, flashing on and off. The new lights have been ordered, I've been told, by city officials. They're still not have arrived. The owners of Jimmy's Restaurant sent a letter to the administration, and I will show everyone this letter. This letter doesn't address any other issue. It addresses the same issues that all of us residents came in front of the last administration about potholes. I personally filled potholes on 5 Rock Street. They addressed this administration, and I texted her into this morning, and I says, this is the first, I loved everything your administration is doing up to this point. We open a road in May, and we close a road in May. I don't think there's one city councilman knew that you were closing Rock Street. Because I called a couple of yous, and they're like, oh, no, let me check. Okay? To close a road, and Paul Dorsey, our corporation counsel, could correct me, the police department had to get a letter from the city hall and the public works. They call a police commissioners meeting to address the issues of the reason why we're going to close Rock Street. The reason was, it's all in this letter. And I read the letter. And they pay a lot of money in taxes in this town. They deserve to have potholes going to their restaurant repaired. So what's the city do? They closed the road. They got an email 23 hours before the road was getting closed. They didn't have ample time to get signage because the road is getting closed. They've been in West Ham for 99 years. I don't care if you like them or not, and I don't care if anybody likes me or not, because I go to bed at night and I sleep very well. They've been here 99 years. You know that boardwalk in front of Jimmy's that everybody walks? You know they own that property? They own up to the high tide line. So let's rewind the tape to the Guerrero administration. That is when they allowed the residents the 25-foot passage. That up to the high tide line is their density. It's just like Westwalk. Westwalk every 10 years signs an agreement to allow the public to walk through their property. They could have a vote of the condo association to shut down that boardwalk. And then you have to walk around. Okay? Unless something's changed since the previous board administration. Because I attended a lot of those meetings. But Jimmy's owns up to the high tide line. Now, the city shuts the road down. Now, the city's using federal money to put barricade now. It's barricaded on 5 Rock Street. Their legal address is 5 Rock Street. The city is making them use an address that's on Captain Thomas Boulevard. It's not 5 Rock Street. That's a Captain Thomas Boulevard. Since 1974, that's their legal address. You couldn't fix the potholes. You couldn't address their issues. You got to send them an email and then close the road 23 hours later. There's no detour. There should be a detour sign because you're technically detouring people back to their restaurant. There's no detour. I've asked the police department, and I got a call back today in regards to some issues I'm complaining about. If you're coming from Via Jetties, now you can't even do a
Point of order,
U-turn.
Mr. Chairman? Yes, ma'am. If you're going to enforce 5 minutes on one person, I think you have to enforce. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Heffernan. I really appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, no.
I'm just.
That's fine. That's fine.
Folks, no back and forth. No back and forth.
I know, Nick. I know the rules, Nick. Trust
I know
me.
you do.
So it's kind of funny how just because people wrote a letter to this administration, we shut a road down. You're making them use a different address. The tractor trailers having a hard enough time to get in the entrance you guys are making them use. There's going to be a head-on accident because someone's going to pull out of Jimmy's and take a left and hit somebody coming the other way. There's no reason why we cannot allow people to do a U-turn in front of Jimmy's to get into their parking lot. If you're coming from Via Jetties, you see the cones because most of the residents are from out of state. Once you go by those cones, out-of-towners can't figure out how to get back there because you can't do a U-turn at Turks. So now you're down over at Platt Avenue. You lose the people. And people ask me, because I'm down the beach every day, what's going on? I said it's a political power struggle. So another thing, the previous administration put cameras up the boardwalk. Do you think that you should have permission from a landowner to put a trench all across their property and put electrical boxes on their property, knowing that they own the sidewalk? That you created an electrical easement on private property. That's not city property. The contractor says, well, we were told it's city property. It's not. It's private property. The sidewalk is owned by the Gagliardis. If you like it or not, they own the sidewalk. And I even sent Melly a picture of the aerial shot of all the property they own today. So it's a joke. The road should be open. It should be open by Father's Day. No reason why. If you're going to put barriers there, then you better put barriers over at 200 Oak Street before you get to 200 Oak Street. Okay? It's your oldest business in town. The mayor worked for them, and numerous elected officials have worked for the Gagliardis. They're business people. Okay? They're not in the business to park cars because I hate when people come from out of town and park cars there because I clean up the trash there. Okay? I have pride in this town, and I thank everybody for being here, taking time away from their loved ones to be here. But open that road because it's going to end up in court, and it's not going to look good for this administration. I don't care what you say. It should be open, and that's it. And I'll be back here next month and next month, because I got nothing else to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frozzalone. Would anyone else like to speak before the City Council?
Hello, my name is Camila Guiza Chavez. I live at 90 Livingston Street in New Haven. And I'm one of the 5,000 people that viewed the video of the head chairman of the police commission yelling, banging his gavel, interrupting, and all around acting incredibly disrespectfully towards my friend and colleague, Vanessa, who spoke earlier. And like those other viewers of that video, I'm very disturbed about what that means and what that symbolizes. And for months, you have seen us coming here. We have gone to the police commission meetings, and not just simply when we come to speak, but also to observe, to learn how the democratic process works here, to understand what are the terms in which we can be heard and communicate ourselves. So we have taken a lot of diligence to communicate in the most, in the way where we'll be heard. And so, but that, it's really just disturbing and disappointing to see that after many times of speaking about Roya Mohammadi, and the detective that was initially assigned to her case, who, as we've said many, many times, was incredibly negligent and in an unacceptable way. And we had never ever seen this rule be enforced before, not towards us or towards anyone else who named a city official in trying to hold them accountable. And so, I think it should be questioned, seriously questioned, why after several times where the police commission had recognized our faces, likely knew what we were there to say, all of a sudden started to enforce, and I'm sure maybe it's on video or it's in the minutes, but all of a sudden started to enforce a 3-minute rule as soon as my colleague went up to speak, and also started to enforce the rule of not naming any police officers that were not in the room, and not being able to name Roya, who is not here anymore. And when my friend and coworker, colleague Vanessa mentioned, why can't we say Roya's name? She's deceased. They said, then say the deceased. That is incredibly dehumanizing. This is someone who's a loved one of ours, and her family in Afghanistan has seen that video and is so, horrified at the fact that her name wasn't even being allowed to be spoken out loud in an official meeting. How else are we supposed to ask for accountability? Really, that is a repressive act. It's one that is quite scary, to be honest with you. It's an act of repression. It feels very selective and targeted. And, it feels, we're two brown women coming here to speak and advocate for an Afghan woman who we lost to patriarchal violence. And that is, we have tried our best to participate in this process in such a way where we can connect and earnestly, in good faith, speak to you all on a level as humans and try to have you hear why this is so horrifying, that a woman is found dead in a river and her case goes uninvestigated until months and months of advocating. And we're trying to, we shouldn't have to scream or be repressed or have to be re-traumatized being yelled at by the head of a police commission in this process. So, we come here just kind of in shock, in anger, and hoping to see accountability. I mean, we first came here to ask for accountability for a police officer that was completely negligent on this case. We have yet to know anything that happens that, is being done as a consequence, or we have yet to hear anything from city officials about that. And now again, like in the process of talking about this and advocating, we're experiencing this unacceptable treatment that we haven't seen anybody else have to withstand at any of these meetings. So thank you for hearing us, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak before the city council? For the second time, would anyone like to speak before the city council? For the third and final time, would anybody like to speak before the city council? Public session is now closed at 7:35. We will now convene the 6/10/24 regularly scheduled council meeting at also 7:35. Just give us a few moments, as there are some changes that we would like to make to the journal for this evening. Okay, first off, I am looking for a motion to move communication B out of finance and into council as a whole for this evening.
Motion.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Oh, nice. Motion carries. All right, and the second one comes from, I am looking for a motion to approve the Journal of May 28th, 24, which we will amend right now. There are some changes that need to be made, and if the clerk will read those changes.
Under approval of the minutes of the May 28th, 2024 regular meeting minutes, the motion passed by a majority, not unanimously, as two of the council people abstained, and there's a little typo under public hearing. The Finance Committee Communication O should say rehabilitation of sewer pipes.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve as amended?
Motion.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Motion carries.
Only one abstention, right?
Correct. All right. And at this time, I will have the clerk hand out the communications for this evening.
Communication A from the tax collector regarding overpayment refunds for May 2024, which will be filed with tonight's minutes. Communication B from Michael Gormany, Finance Director, and Rachel Amassi, Tax Manager, regarding the approval of the sale and assignment of delinquent tax liens to TLOA Servicing LLC is now being assigned to the council as a whole. Chairman Pascal. Communication C from Mike Agello, Deputy Corporation Counsel, regarding the sale, transfer, or lease of city-owned property located at 24 Front Avenue being assigned to Public Lands. Chairman Donovan. Communication D from Mayor Dorinda Borer regarding the creation of an Allingtown Library ARPA project and the reallocation of $1 million from the ARPA contingency being assigned to the council as a whole. Chairman Pascal. And communication E from Mayor Dorinda Borer regarding the approval of an application for a Community Investment Fund CIF grant being assigned to the Finance Committee. Chairman Vargo. And that concludes the communications for this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you kindly. We will now recess into committee meetings at 7:39. First up, we have communication D regarding the creation of an Allingtown Library project. Would you like to come up and present?
Hello, everybody. I'm Colleen Bailey, Executive Director of the West Haven Library at 300 Elm Street. I'm here again, obviously, to talk to you in regards to the Allingtown Library project. As some of you are aware, we did have to close the library in September of 2022 when the city did sell the building. And we were not able to pay the market rates they were asking for, so we did move out of that building with 3 weeks and put all those different items in the Ora Mason at the main library. Shortly after that, we went City Council and the Library Board, met multiple times to kind of discuss various different locations for the library. There was a couple different options that were looked at. Ultimately, the Library Board did end up buying 668 Orange Avenue as a potential site for the library, with the hopes of also having 634 Orange Avenue foreclosed on and then deeded over to the library, so we could then have a larger area for the library and have ample parking in a one-story building. As anyone knows, with a two-story building, elevators and stairwells can get expensive. We also have begun a capital campaign for the library as well to help with the state construction. We also do have a state construction grant currently for that project at 668 Orange Avenue. And through this whole process, as well as the city and administrations have changed, multiple buildings in Allingtown have come up for sale, where we have also been thinking about the prospects of redoing an existing building. As you're all aware, the construction costs for building a library has gone up significantly, and for building in general. So the hope is that we'd be able to use our ARPA funds for possibly the purchase or update of an existing building. obviously, time is of the essence with some of this as well. So Plan B is still to use that property that we currently have as well. So it's one or the other. I like I said, I do believe we will be making decisions very shortly as far as that goes. But we do need to have those ARPA funds above the line, as Ken Carney always speaks about, above and below the line. For the library that we're looking to build, regardless of where it may be, there's a few things we want to do for sure. As you all are aware, for Pantino Library was in One Forest Road for 42 years. It was a small library. It was about 6,500 square feet. We had a very, very small meeting space. We're looking to have a meeting space that would house at least 75 people at once, and also to be divisible so that we could have multiple meetings at the same time within the library. We're also looking to make sure that we have a separate children's room. When we used to have school visits over at the Pantino Library, we would have to close the library while we were doing those school visits because we could not have that many people in the library at the same time. And we really want to be able to make sure that we're building a library of the 21st century and be building for the future, not for right now. I think that's also vitally important to be thinking about. We did not have a teen space in the Pantino location. We are also looking to make sure that we have a teen space and a place for kids to go to safely after school, which is why it's also very important for the library to be in a bus line. So anything that we've been looking at is making sure that we are easily accessible to everybody in town and being able to reach as many people as possible. We also have a lot of historical information at the library that right now is in the bowels of the basement of the main library. And we really want to be able to have a historical room in this new location and be able to have all those historical artifacts that we have at the library in a place where people would actually be able to be accessible to those things. If any of you have come to the library and I've given you a tour of it, you've seen in the basement where we have all those things covered in plastic, and we really want to be able to make sure that it's in a temperature controlled space, and that would also double as another meeting space. At the library right now, with both main library and Ora Mason, we are constantly having to turn people down because we do not have enough meeting space. We do not have enough small study spaces for people. So and we're still getting questions every single week about an Allentown library too. So it's still very much present on people's minds as well. We're also looking to make sure that when any library that we build has proper sight lines, so we don't have to have mass increase in staffing coming in. We're really looking to kind of make sure that from that circulation area where we have the library, that people can be able to see. We make sure that there's eyes on people from wherever they may be in the library. Our previous location in Pantino was very heavily used, especially for technology. We did a lot of technology help at that location. A lot of people coming in for Wi-Fi use as well, and just for having that community space. We had UNH students that would come to the library frequently as well because they liked coming to the public library as opposed to their own library. And we're really looking to make sure that by having those ARPA funds available to us, we're going to be able to really hit the ground running with this project and have that library open as soon as we possibly can for the people of West Haven and in Allentown. So that's my really, really, really quick rundown about the library, and I'm sure that there's questions.
All right, I'll open it up to questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, Colleen.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So having this $1 million, just so I'm clear, having this $1 million will help you make a buying decision possibly
yes.
on a building. And if you can't find a building, that money would be used for
the current property that we currently have. We still have to do a lot of land clearing in that property. We've already had estimates for making sure, because we have to make sure that the water drainage is taken care of. There's a big problem in that neighborhood, and we want to make sure that anything the library does stays in the library property. So we're also looking into that. So that's all the stuff that can also start before we've even put a shovel in the ground for building the library itself.
Right. So the pressure is obviously on the library right now. If this passes, which I'm all for it, but if it does pass, it's putting the pressure on y'all to get this done.
We want to have decisions sooner rather than later.
Yeah, because the money will run.
Yes.
Out, by November.
Yes.
And we also if we don't see nothing going, it may end up getting pulled as well.
Yeah, and we're very cognizant of that and want to make sure that things are done as quick as possible. The library board's been really great about making sure that when we have things that we're looking at, we've had emergency meetings if we need to address things to make sure that we're hitting timelines. And that I could foresee that as well for anything with the Allentown Library too.
Yeah, and I agree. I think Allentown definitely needs the library. I mean, every district has one. Yep. Shore has one, Center Allentown needs one as well. So, thank you, Chairman.
Councilwoman Callahan.
Hi, Colleen.
Hello.
How are you? Thank you for coming in and doing your presentation. And I have to agree with Councilman Donovan on that, being from Allentown and in the 6th District and growing up there. It's definitely a heartfelt loss right now for a lot of folks. That area, especially where we are, it's just an open invitation to go for work applications or study or books or just have some alone time. A lot of people don't have access to computers or ways to study, to just be out of their element, to have some quiet time. And again, what Councilman Donovan had reiterated that we're all just understanding is that it is the ARPA funds
Yes.
that we're talking about, which is great. I am definitely for it. And can you just give us an idea for the folks not in the Allentown district about how long ago were you there?
We were there so there was an original Allentown Library branch in a storefront in the 1930s that opened. And then when that Forest School closed and that was rehabbed into a community center and a senior center, the library was put in the middle floor in 1978. So we were there for 42 years successfully with a library branch.
And how long have you been out?
Since September of 2020.
Oh, so it's been 4 years.
It's already been 4 years.
Okay.
Time flies.
Can you give us, and the community maybe listening in, what is your perspective of the volume of traffic for that Allentown library? Would you say it was very busy?
It's a library branch, so it's obviously not going to be as heavily used as the main library was, but we would easily see probably between 10 to 15,000 people a year through that library.
Wow.
In the last couple of years with all the construction that was happening in Allentown, we did see a slight decrease. But you also have to remember 1 in 5 people in West Haven do not have internet access at home. So the library is a huge place for people to be able to go to and be able to utilize the internet. During the pandemic, we also put on both Ora Mason and the main library, we put outside Wi-Fi hotspots in the library so people would be able they'd be able to use those after hours in our parking lots.
Oh.
It would be great if we were able to do that as well in the Allentown area, but we weren't able to because we don't have one. We do have one that we're starting to do on the bookmobile, so as our outreach librarian is out in town, she can kind of have a hotspot wherever she may be in town.
So once that library is in place, you'll be able to provide that hotspot as well for after-hour people.
Yeah, and we also when I first became director, because it was almost 9 years ago now, we're doing a summer tutoring program that was also through the main library and in the Allentown location as well. We were helping almost 60 kids throughout the summer not hit that summer slide that happens when kids are not in school anymore and reading. So any of those kids that were at lower reading levels, they were getting extra help at that library location. So we've lost the ability to be able to do as much services as we used to by not having that location. And I will say, even now since the pandemic, our library visit numbers are higher than they were pre-pandemic, and that's without Allentown. So you add in an Allentown library, we're going to see those numbers go up even higher now because people are coming into the library more and more, and it's because it's that community space. It's also that place for people to be able to do things that they may not be able to do otherwise. You can't apply to Burger King without a library, without having access to the internet. People applying for Social Security, a lot of times they come to the library. When a couple years ago, when Social Security Administration changed how people had to do things for applying it, Labor Department was putting stuff out, go to your library. We didn't know that until we started seeing swarms of people coming to the library, so it would have been nice to know before they kind of sent that stuff out, but that's just reality. Even with the solar eclipse classes, they were saying, go to your library, and we all didn't have nearly enough for the volume of people coming to the library for those kind of services. So it goes across the gamut of what people need their library for. And with Allentown, the way the bus lines work in West Haven, and I'm not sure why, if you go from downtown West Haven, you end up in downtown New Haven, and then it circles back to West Haven. So people who may want to go to the library via bus are then circling to New Haven to then come back into West Haven.
Right.
It's 11 square miles. It shouldn't be that complicated, but I don't make bus routes.
Yeah, we don't make the bus route, but that's very insightful information, I believe. And also, I do have 2 close friends that are studying to get licenses in different professions, and they have internet at home and they have a car. Like, you know what? They go to the library.
Yep.
So
And during the pandemic, we put in 2 study carrels and like some dead space in the main library, and those are used, and we have wait lists for people utilizing those spaces. So anything that we put in Allentown is gonna be able to help people, because more and more libraries are putting in these study pods and study spaces for people who. We've had people come in who are just for doing proctoring tests. That, they need to they need to be somewhere where some other people are there to kind of see them, witness them being able to do something like that. So being able to have those spaces, we're able to do that kind of stuff.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Thank you.
Miss, unfortunately not from the audience. It's only council discussion now. I'm sorry. That's okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome. Do I have any other discussion from the board? Mr. Johnstone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleen, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Living that dream still. So, I have a couple questions. As always, I have a couple concerns. And that's with any project, because we are still in Tier 4. So, my first question is, after everything that's been discussed with this project, if MARB was sitting with us here today, what would they question? Or what would they say? Because it is over 50,000.
Yep.
They are going to have to approve it.
Yep.
And we are still backed up with MARB approving a lot of the firehouse construction, which that was a big necessity. So that's part one. Part two, also under MARB, is how does this fit into our 5-year plan? So I did some digging before I got on the council. It is, to my understanding, the proposed budget for the year 2022. So this would be the summer before I ran. That the Allentown Library was offered in the budget 2 line items for lease and help. Of course, I left the sheet in my truck, but I remember the total was $100,544. You guys chose not to do that. So my question, hang on. So my question is, how is that expense going to be the same? Because that was time, things have gotten more expensive. It's not in the 5-year plan. And my concern, and I'm sure it's supposed to go through every council person's concern, is how do we keep taxes from going up? Because if we're adding another expense, how do we respond to that?
So
now I'm done.
Okay. So I will say, as far as the rental piece goes for the city council, we went and looked at, I want to say 4 to 5 different properties in Allentown for rental space. And either they needed major overhaul we would have been having to put $1 million into doing even just a repair plate for some of those locations that we were looking at. Another location was so small, the only thing we would have been able to do is basically have computers in a storefront and not have any materials for people to be able to check out or any kind of programs that people were looking for. We also looked into the potential of possibly buying a full-scale bookmobile as well as an option to then be able to park somewhere and be able to have more permanent space. So we looked at a number of different properties, and it was because there's limited amount of properties that are available. So we looked at a number of different things to be able to see if we'd be able to do, and it just wasn't feasible in the time frame that we were kind of given for that. And I understand that there is concern about us having an either or an or, and I do not want to see us spend money on one thing and then end up doing another. That's why we're trying to be very, very judicious and make sure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's as we move forward. But we have also lost out on other potential properties because we haven't already had the funding available to us as well. So we're in the middle of a capital campaign as well. We're raising money, we're looking at grants, but we're also trying to be cognizant of the fact that if we were to able to rehab a current existing building in town, and say it's a building that's not being utilized right now, we'd be able to then be bringing people to that area of town to be able to utilize it. And when you look at anything like from Pew Research studies about libraries, the return on an investment in a library is tenfold from what you actually put into it. Because you have people who do their errands around going to the library. You have people who come and utilize that space for their business. Maybe they're working from home and they just need to get out of the house for a couple hours. So people utilize those libraries for money, a multitude of different ways. You also have the potential of people potentially being able to utilize our community space when after hours. So you'd have community groups in the town that would then be able to utilize that space. We are a community resource. We're a resource for every single person in this room to be able to come in and use on a regular basis. We have multitudes of different things. And by having that third space, it's not right that Allentown doesn't have a library. I'd love it if we had a 50,000 square foot library in the middle of town, but the way West Haven's set up, it's just not feasible. So we also did a feasibility study in April of 2021 that was put on, the previous council asked us to do. And even through that study, they said it was cost benefit was for us having that third location in the Allentown district because of just the way everything is set up in West Haven.
Thank you for those. So my next question would be, based on what you responded, is this. I'm going to quote my high school soccer coach, Mr. Andy Potter. If everyone's thinking the same thing, nobody's thinking. Took me years to figure it out, and I'll admit that. Here's my point. I went to Ora Mason. I asked, I'll be honest, I haven't been there. It's my district. It's right up the road. I went there as a kid all the time for summer reading. Got my summer reading list, walked up Hubbard, went to Benham Hill, walked in, walked out. My father had to watch to make sure I was actually going to the library and not to play wiffle ball down the street. The March report, from what I was told, was 293 people that walked in the door. That library is located on the corners of District 10, 8, and 9. My point of, if everyone's thinking the same thing, and I have no problem saying it because this is just an open discussion, do we need 3 libraries?
Yes. And I will say Ora Mason is used differently than Allentown libraries.
Correct. I agree with that.
In the main library. So when you look at, we've also unfortunately had some staff turnover like other departments in town. We've had a lot of different branch managers over the last few years as well. So when you lose those good employees because they go somewhere else, you're then starting over again with what you're trying to do. And if you've been to that library, when we've done some of our larger programs, when we do the ice cream social at that library, you will see 200 kids at that library in outside of on Benham Hill Road. They're having more and more kids coming in. Our branch manager has been really working with the schools in the area, with Bailey and with Pagels, bringing more people in. And yeah, you're going to have it ebb and flow, and you're going to see that it's not going to have as many people coming in the doors as some of the other places. But it's still a vital resource, and I bet you that people in your district would agree with that as well.
So my last question, and I appreciate everyone's patience, is this, in my mind, this is the golden goose question. How are we going to keep competing with this?
It's apples and oranges. The services that the library gives for people in town is, and people who are senior citizens come into the library with those phones and say, my daughter just gave me this. I have no idea how to use it. Please help me. We have technology help going on at the library every single day where people come in and say, I don't know how to utilize this stuff. You also have 1 in 5 do not have internet access at home in West Haven. That's across the city. There's this misnomer that libraries are irrelevant. We're changing with the times to be able to meet people where they're at. That's why you see so many new programs at the library. We have ESL classes for people who just moved to this country and don't know how to speak English. You've got people coming in who don't know how to apply for a job. They're coming to the library for that. You have people who don't understand how to apply for Medicare. They're coming to the library for that. So, yes, and phones are changing society and how people use it. Yes, 20% of our circulation numbers are through digital access, but you still have people who just want to hold a book. We're not going to see print books go away in our lifetimes. It's just not going to happen. It's kind of like checkbooks. You still have people who use checkbooks. It's not as many as it used to be, but you still have people using those. We still have people, our DVD collection still goes out on a regular basis. We'll be handing out DVDs and renting them until we can't buy them anymore. Because we also have a large VA hospital in West Haven where a lot of people come in, they're still looking for videotapes. We don't have those anymore. We have people come in taking out books on tape, CDs, the audiobooks. So not everyone has the ability to have those phones. When you look at the Affordable Care Program that was out for the internet access, For the state of Connecticut, 1 in 8 residents in the state of Connecticut were able to utilize that service. That's going away in the next couple months. You're going to see that number go. Before that program, West Haven was at 1 in 4 not having internet access in their homes. So you're going to see that number probably lower again as that program gets twilighted.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm all set.
Mr. Vargo.
Thank you, Chairman. Hi, Colleen.
Hello.
As I understand it, your preference is to purchase another property that has a building already there that you can renovate. That's your preference, and then your second choice would be to build upon the parcel that you already own.
That is correct.
Okay. Chairman, if I may, my question may be more appropriate for Corporation Counsel, but I'd like to know what MARB's role in this, in either option would be, because the VIA, as I understand, is a freestanding, separate entity, and the city is giving ARPA funds to the VIA. So I'd just like to know what role MARB plays and how that would affect your timeline, because I know that the timeline's very important to you.
Well, MARB approval would be required if there is any budgeted funds from the city to the Village Improvement Association. So again, any contract over $50,000 or any plan that would entail acquiring property or expending that money for real estate would certainly have to be approved by the MARB. I don't think we should second guess what the MARB might do now. I think we should act in a way. You should act in a way that best benefits the city. You think best benefits the city, and then hope that the MARB agrees, and we would go to Hartford and defend it for you. But to the extent that the Village Improvement Association is funded by the city, then yes, I mean these agreements would have to be and expenditures would have to be approved by the MARB.
Thank you, Chairman.
That's it? Okay.
That's it.
Did anyone else have discussion? Councilwoman Coletti?
Thank you, Chairman. Hi, Colleen.
Hello.
I want to first thank everyone on the council for their thoughtful questions. I think it's very smart to ask these questions and analyze and make sure that we're supposed to ask these questions and make sure we're trying to make a good financial decision for the city, at least as far as our recommendation is concerned. I think to Councilman Johnstone's point, I think you did approach the other funds in a smart way, not in a frivolous way, which speaks to the way that you're approaching these funds as well. I think you've thought through your plan A and your plan B. I think in addition to what you mentioned, people also utilize kind of utilize it as a co-work space without the cost. I don't know that there is a co-work space in West Haven. I don't know that there is a community center in West Haven. I don't know that there is a physical location that provides the type of community services that the library does provide, especially in an area of West Haven that does need it, that does need the walkability. As far as the square footage and the concern that there's a main library and 2 branches, there's no ability to increase the square footage at the main library, correct?
We haven't really looked into it. I think because you figure we tore down the house that was next door to the main library I believe it was done in 1994 to increase the parking. Previously, the parking was only along the back of the lot. As it is, we just got an easement for where our fence is because our fence was actually bordering on the person next door. So we're very tight in the spot that we are. If we did anything, we'd have to go up probably, and we haven't really looked into the cost of that. When you look at the original library, which was built in September, it was opened in September of 1909. That's a Carnegie we are a Carnegie library. So there is also, we'd have to go through, I think SHPO to make sure that we're doing things in a judicious manner, to make sure that any kind of thing we do to historic buildings still keeps the essence of the building in mind. So we have to kind of take all of that into consideration with that location. I mean, having said that, yeah, our main library needs some work too, but my priority right now is having a library in Allentown first.
Right, And I think that makes sense. And when you look at a main library and the branches, when you compare the total square footage of those locations, it's pretty much on par with a city of 55,000.
Yeah, we're
with our population density.
Yeah, we're still a small library. I mean, for a city of 55,000, we really would want a 65,000 square foot facility if we were going to have a main library with looking at best practices for libraries in the state of Connecticut. By having 3 locations, we're at that like essential number, which I believe will bring us to about 50,000 square feet with 3 locations. But we're also limited by parking. We want to be able to have as many people as possible coming to the library. Sometimes that may mean having different locations. Like when you look at Hamden, which is usually one of the towns that I use for comparisons when I'm doing my comparisons, they also have they have one main library and they have 2 separate locations as well that are much smaller. And yeah, the traffic is used differently. But like when you look at West Haven and you look at the way the city is set up, the libraries are used differently. I mean, even when when people like to compare us to Milford all the time, and we're 2 very different cities, so the libraries are used in very different ways. We even joke about it even at the main library. Like the main library reference room is used much differently than our children's department is used, and that's in the same location. So it's just, we want to be cognizant of that when whatever we do in Allentown meets the needs of the residents that are in that area.
And I think you've already thought through sort of the evolution of technology and kind of adapting and adding programming and all of those things. I think the teen space is key. Teen space is key in a bus line, especially for our youth and our teens in West Haven. When I was younger, I went a lot to a community center, and it was a very a critical resource for me. And I'm satisfied that we would continue to be able to kind of check in on how this progresses beyond MARB, hopefully, and that we would continue to there would be the $1 million would not be lost if things were not progressing. We would be able to potentially reappropriate the funds.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are very cognizant of I'm speaking for me and the library board about making sure the funds are spent judiciously and for the correct reasons. But this is not the first city council I've been before asking for those funds to be released to the point that the library could use them when we need them. And I think we just need to be able to have the funds available so we can start making plans. And we're still making plans as well, but it makes it that much easier by having those funds available to us sooner rather than later, because we know that we're going to have to talk to MARB about it, and I understand that, and we have no problem talking to MARB about the library. Obviously, you guys can tell I'm passionate about making sure there's a library in Allentown. I think I've made that clear. So I think we understand that there's still some other things that we have to go through before we can see those funds allocated. And like I said, I want to make sure that everything is done correctly and that it's done once.
And yeah, and I'm satisfied. I think this is I think it's a very good investment in our community, and I think the oversight is great. And I don't think that there would be. Then my last question was in terms of operating expenses. If you took that into consideration, I believe we discussed this during your budget.
Yeah, and the library's budget's also been a roller coaster the last 7 to 8 years. When the library, with the previous administration, received a PPP loan, our budget was then cut the amount of our PPP loan. So we're still trying to make up for numbers from 2018, 2019 in 2024. So with this fiscal year, we're finally going to be at 1% of the entire total budget. That works out. I did the math at one point. It worked out for somebody who's paying like $5,000 in taxes. I forget what the exact number was, but it's a nominal amount. It ends up being like equal to like 2 library books. So we're for the amount that's invested in the library, the return on investment is tenfold.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilman Locke.
Thank you, Chairman Papscale. Hi, Colleen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
When those feasibility studies were done, obviously before my time and getting involved with this, was there budgetary numbers? I mean, when you did feasibility study, did you get like
So
preliminary quotes to do a build out and all that stuff?
So when you looked at our feasibility study, the feedback that we received back was that the library is exemplary with how they spend their finances and is very judicious and for lack of a better word, cheap with how we do things. On a dime, we're able to really kind of stretch that, and that would be true going forward with bringing a library location into Allentown as well. That's also why we're looking at like a 10,000 square foot facility. I know of colleagues of mine who, when they've done libraries, that they haven't really sat down with the architects, and a building is built not thinking about sight lines, not thinking about staffing, not thinking about staff. You don't want to have teens in a far dark corner with no oversight. Like, you want to make sure that things are done in such a way that there's clear oversight for staff, and have it set up in such a way that you're able to staff it safely but not have too many other pockets of people. And we're trying to be cognizant of that as well.
So is the goal? What's the goal in terms of Allentown, the $1 million, and in terms of building a building? I mean, is it 40,000 square feet? I mean, what's the thought process there?
We're looking at our previous location in Pantina we were 6,500 square feet in One Forest Road. We're looking to do a 10,000 square foot facility. When you're applying for things like this library state construction grant, they expect you to be looking 20 years into the future. So you're looking at census estimates. The census estimates for West Haven, the town's going to grow in the next 10 years. So we're looking at being cognizant of that. We're trying to plan for, and I'm also looking at things that don't work right in Ora Mason at the main library and what we can do differently. So a lot of things that libraries are doing too now with planning forward is having things like and it's silly, but planning things like rolling book aisles, so then that way you can move those around as you need as spaces change. So maybe you have it so that you don't have as many teens coming in anymore, so you don't need that space to be as large. So then you kind of, you reallocate that space to something else. Maybe you need to have a larger new release section because more people are coming in to utilize those books. So you're going to be able to do that. Even at the main library, we've taken down shelving, put shelving back up as things have changed. We've added tables and moved and removed tables as things have changed. So it's trying to be as nimble as we possibly can with the space that we have.
Okay. Have you received budget? So your optimal library that you would like to execute based on what you're saying, have you gotten like a preliminary budgetary total cost for that?
So we did, we had worked with a construction company for looking at potential costs, and this was about 2 years ago. If we did a full build out from scratch, we're now looking, when I did the state construction grant 3 years ago, it was a $4 million project.
Okay.
When we looked at it 2 years ago, it was an $8 million project, and that's if we're one floor. You add in an elevator, and that cost goes up another couple million because you need to be able to have the steel for the elevator shaft, and you also need to be able to have 2 different stairwells as well, which then also adds an additional 2,000 square feet to that building, whether you want it or not. So it brings the cost up exponentially. So that's why we're trying to plan as much as we possibly can to make sure that people are aware of what we're trying to do and what the cost is going to be. And that's why another thought that had come into mode was about looking at rehabbing a facility. So then if we buy a building that has the space that we need and the requirement that we need, we're just looking at rehabbing it, putting in the technology that we need, having the removable tech floors so that we'd be able to kind of be as limber as we possibly can. And still, you also have to look at, when you're building for the library, that you have to be looking at the weight for the shelving for all those books and materials. So we're also looking at having not quite as many stacks as we had in Pantino, because Pantino, quite frankly, the collection hadn't been weeded through. So the last few years, staff have been going through and really kind of wheedling down that collection a little bit as best we possibly can, but then we're going to also need to buy more materials as well.
Okay, so you have the $1 million for ARPA. Where is the rest of that funding coming from? Where would it come from?
It's a combination. So we're looking at construction grants, we're looking at state funding, we're looking at federal funding. Yep. We're also doing a capital campaign as well. So any pool of funds that we can be looking at for the project, we are looking at. But and also is especially with looking at other funding, the more funding we already have in, it's sad, but the more funding we already have in place, the easier it is to get more funding. It's like a chicken and egg, trying to make sure that when you have more, they're willing to give you more. So by having those funds available, it helps us be that much further along for the project.
Okay. So you have the $1 million today. You have to get additional funding. Can you speak to any additional funds that you have today outside of the $1 million? I mean, do you have $2 million sitting in some accounts?
We also
I'm just
have
curious.
the library, and the library board is willing to also put in $1 million from. I'm not speaking out of turn, I hope.
Okay.
About from the endowment as well. So that's also consideration as well. But because we also want to make sure we still have an endowment, because you have to remember too, we don't ever come back to the city. When we had to spend $11,000 last year to fix the elevator at the main library, we didn't come before city council for that. When we spent $75,000 2 years ago to redo the boilers at the main library, we did that through the endowment funds. So we've also saved the money through those endowment funds, probably $1 million over the last 10, 12 years, just in HVAC and basic repairs alone.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Garthwaite.
Hi, Colleen.
Hello.
I'm just curious, can you tell us how many residents used the Allentown Library previously?
We were getting between 10 and 15,000 residents per year going through the library.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, so the Allentown location had, we were all, like I said, Or Mason more has people coming in, taking materials out, maybe going to a story time. The book clubs do really well over there. Pantina, we had a lot more people coming in for technology help, coming in for just a community space to be. They had more unhoused coming in as well. We had a lot of veterans going there. So it's the needs kind of changed. And then the main library kind of sees a little bit of everything. So it's like I said, it's an urban library that needs to be in that area.
Okay, I agree. I also want to say I love all the programs that you and your staff put together.
Thank you.
And
they take the credit for that. That's not me. I just give them the money.
Yeah, I love the social media posts too.
Oh, thank you. Our digital librarian's been really working hard to get more people, and we're getting more and more people looking at the and the fun posts get more people looking at the library than they start seeing the programs we're doing.
Yes, they do. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing as none, I just wanted to add that I am in favor of this project, and I believe it is right for the community as a replacement to the library that was. And even though I do not like the mirror, I would like to say exactly what Councilwoman Coletti said is, due to the nature of the ARPA funds, if you do get this, I believe, I speak on behalf of the council because we've been diligent with other projects of this nature. If you can't get something off the ground, if this does pass, we will probably try to reallocate it to something that is more shovel ready.
That's fair. Okay. And I think as things progress, I'm more than happy to come before the council on a regular basis to update you on the proceedings of how the library is moving forward too, if that helps to ease people's minds as well.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm happy to do that.
All right. That being said, and if we're all good, I will entertain a motion to create an Allentown Library ARPA project and reallocation of $1 million from ARPA contingency. Do I have that motion? Heffernan there. And do I have that second?
Second.
Callahan over there. All right. Discussion's good? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? One opposed? Two opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries by majority.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I get to read a little bit. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your committee, council as a whole, to whom was referred the matter of the creation of an Allentown Library ARPA project and the reallocation of $1 million from ARPA contingency, reports that the committee met on the 10th day of June 2024 to consider said matter. It is the majority opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Whereas the city is in receipt of certain federal coronavirus stimulus funds, hereinafter referred to as ARPA funds, whereas former Mayor Nancy R. Rossi previously submitted to the council an outline plan for the expenditure of ARPA funds, which has been supplemented by Mayor Dorinda K. Boer, Mayor. Whereas the City Council has fiscal responsibility for the appropriation of ARPA funds under Section 4 of the City Charter entitled Supplemental Appropriation. Whereas the mayor, her administration, and impaneled Citizen Review Committee, ARPA Committee, have executive duties for administering ARPA funds, including but not limited to the purchase requirements of Chapter 42 of the Code of the City of West Haven, attached hereto for reference. Whereas the council is required to appropriate funds for projects the council selects to fund. Whereas the resolution is intended to supplement previous resolutions made on the same subjects. Resolved that the City Council hereby appropriates funding for the following project: Village Improvement Association of West Haven Incorporated, VIA, Allentown Library, up to $1 million. A total of up to $1 million is appropriated to assist in funding the VIA's purchase of real property containing a building and related repurposing costs for an Allentown Library. Further resolved that Dorinda K. Boer, as mayor of the City of West Haven, shall A, develop a program narrative and project budget for the ARPA funds programs listed above. B, report said narrative, budget, and resulting expense accounting reports to the City Council for oversight and monitoring no less than once monthly. C, the monthly reports of the Council continue until all funds are expended and final reports are made to the U.S. Department of Treasury for the ARPA funds projects. D, that contingency funds shall remain unappropriated until the City Council authorizes transfer to an approved expense account. E, that all project cost overruns shall be approved by the City Council before costs are incurred. And F, that all project surplus be returned to the ARPA contingency fund for further action by the City Council. Further resolved, Dorinda K. Boer, as mayor of the City of West Haven, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents related to this resolution on behalf of the City of West Haven, and to do and perform all acts and things which she deems to be necessary and appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents. Okay, cool. That's a lot. Next up, we have Communication B from Michael Gormany, Finance Director, and Rachel. Rachel, can you say your last name for me?
A. Massey.
A. Massey, Tax Manager, regarding approval of the sale and assignment of delinquent tax liens to TLOA Servicing LLC. Hi.
Hi.
Do you have something for us today, or are you just entertaining questions?
Entertaining questions mostly. I can explain why we do the assignments, which is what I would normally do. If you don't know, we do assignments here in West Haven because our other options are foreclosing on properties, selling houses out from under people, or putting them out to tax warrant, which adds a 15% plus the warrant fee for the marshals, which is very costly for people who already don't have the funds to pay. So the law in Connecticut doesn't allow the tax office, a tax collector, in any way to make formal payment arrangements with these people. They can always make partials, but if they can't afford to pay us through our budget, we have to collect a budget. So in order to prevent selling the houses out from under people, we assign them, and they are able to legally make payment arrangements with these companies. Since I started a few years ago, have not awarded always to the highest bidder because I refuse to go with a company that charges high servicing fees. So they, in this bid, dropped their premium to a very, very low amount. And so they didn't win this year anyways. But I think that we do what's best for the people of West Haven through this process.
Anyone from the council have any questions? Councilwoman Callahan?
Hi, how are you?
I'm well.
So when you said that you get the bids in and you look for the lowest servicing fees, and the company that gave us the lowest servicing fees did not win the bid, can you explain that?
No, the highest.
So the highest. Okay.
The highest. So what happens is they send us what their premium is going to be. The
Okay.
highest premium would normally be the winner. In this case, it was. TLOA was the high. Is going to pay us extra more than the other two companies. But one of the other companies in the past was paying us 15%, but then going forward and charging that to the taxpayers for servicing. And I didn't agree with that because I feel like it's hurting the people that are already hurting here. So
Correct.
when TLOA became our highest bidder,
Mm-hmm.
I had contacted them to verify their fees. and they assured me that they only charge for the service fee for the mailings and stuff like that, that they don't charge a servicing fee to these people. They only get paid the statutory amounts that we would collect in our office, the 18% interest.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes more sense. Thanks for clarifying that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the sale and assignment of delinquent tax liens to TLOA Servicing LLC. Do I have that motion?
Motion.
Motion there, second there. All right, any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I will be abstaining from action on this matter. My employer, Green Law, is legal counsel to TLOA of Connecticut and handles its foreclosure work.
That seems prudent. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
That's you. Motion carries by majority. All right, that concludes the matters of council as a whole. At 8:27, we're going to move on to the Finance Committee. Acting Chairman Fargo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The time is 8:27. Your Committee on Finance is now in session.
Let me interrupt you. I have to read the resolved. I forgot to do that. Let me open back up council as a whole at 8:27.
Just getting on a roll.
I'm sorry. I wasn't being prudent. So for Communication B to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of the delinquent tax lien assignment list, reports that the committee met on the 10th day of June 2024 to consider said matter. It is the majority opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the tax lien sale to TLOA Servicing LLC for the assignment lien list as of June 1st, 2024 for $1,449,807.45, or as amended, for properties paid current to date. And I so move. And then that concludes at 8:28. And back to you, Mr. Vargo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The time is now 8:28. And your Committee on Finance is now in session. Committee members present are Councilman Locks, Councilman Johnstone, and myself acting as chair. Absent this evening is Councilwoman Akbarelli and Councilwoman Tucker. First item is the MARB meeting update, but I don't believe, Mr. Chairman, that we have updates tonight. Okay. Next item is Communication C from the May 28, 2024 agenda from Ronald Dumas, CDA Housing Specialist, regarding the Neighborhood Assistance Program budget, and I am looking for a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? The only item I want to add to the record, Mr. Chairman, is West Haven Youth Soccer Association has applied for $3,000. I am an official of West Haven Youth Soccer, but I don't have any involvement with the actual program that's being funded by these monies.
I appreciate that. You're a very busy man.
I am. Many hats. Any discussion? Yes. Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is what we discussed earlier, correct?
No, this is the
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind then.
That's on C. Or D, I'm sorry.
My apologies.
No problem.
I'm
Any
good,
other
thank you.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Communication D from the May 28, 2024 agenda from Mark Bisacchia, Manager of the Community Development Administration, regarding Block Grant Program Year 50, and I'm looking for a motion to approve.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Councilman Johnson, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We checked with corporate counsel beforehand. I'm allowed to make the motion, but I have to abstain from the vote due to being the president of the Hubbard Family Association and the history that goes along with the debate between Ward Heitman and the Hubbard Homestead. I have to abstain from anything involving the Ward Heitman house. So just want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Can I vote? Point of order? Do I have a vote?
So we only have 2 people in the committee voting?
Do I get a vote?
Yeah, but it's you and Locks.
Correct, but Robert's rules, I believe, Mr. Dorsey, is that if there's an abstention, it is the majority of the voting members, as long as there's a quorum. So I believe that 2 votes would still be sufficient.
I don't know. Wasn't there a court case that that same thing happened in the wetlands? didn't. I don't know. You're the lawyer, not me. Don't know.
Thank you, Attorney Dorsey.
To tell you the truth, now there might be a case. So it was my feeling that the motion could be made by someone who is abstaining from the vote. But then, if that means there's no quorum, then that might be a different situation.
But my understanding of the abstention rule in Robert's rules is that as long as it's the number of affirmative votes of the voting members, and abstention is not a no.
The abstention doesn't kill the quorum.
It doesn't kill the quorum.
There's still 2 of 3.
I'm sorry?
I'm agreeing. There's still 2 of 3 if there's 2 affirmative.
Right.
It's 2 affirmative, yeah. So I think the abstention does not disqualify the quorum.
And my vote counts?
Then your vote would count.
Okay.
Sir?
Councilman Johnson.
Thank you. Mark, you're here. Would you mind answering the question of, for us to cover all bases here, in the safety of everyone involved with this, what would happen if we held this? Is that going to throw things off for you, or is this something?
It probably wouldn't throw things off if you held it for another couple weeks, but I'm not quite understanding why you're abstaining. There's no funding approved for Ward Heitman House at this point. It's 0.
I thought there was.
It's proposed 0.
It is proposed 0.
Yeah.
Then I misread that. If that is the case, then
yeah.
Then I.
And are you a paid member on the board, or
of
your
what?
affiliation with it? Are you paid?
No.
If you're not a paid member, I'm not quite understanding how there's a conflict of interest.
The conflict of interest is the association I represent of Hubbards across the country, because we are filed with the state. The debate has been for years of Ward Heitman, which house is older. And because one has received funding, because we have bylaws, we have an association, I'm the president, we have a vice president, secretary, chairman, we have the second longest ongoing family reunion in the country. There are so many intertwined circles. We've had historical society, Rotary Club people's come to the homestead for years, and everyone's claiming that they know the year of the house, but us Hubbards don't. So there's...
Is there a personal financial interest that you have?
Well, don't forget, there's been hundreds of thousands of dollars pumped in the Ward Heitman House for years. So don't forget, I've got a 102-year-old cousin invested in this topic. But I want to make sure I represent my association well, so that way I don't conflict with anybody. So I've always proceeded with caution. Anything with Ward Heitman, I have abstained from.
Councilman, I certainly appreciate that. Unless there was, the Ward Heitman is not being funded through this. Right. Okay.
Okay.
Was there a competition between Hubbard and Ward Heitman at all?
Years ago, there was.
Years ago, but
yes.
not with respect to the granting.
Correct.
Of this
but
budget.
That's why I've always abstained as caution.
I understand that. I think that you're fine to vote.
Okay. If that is the case, then that resolves everything.
Being
Okay.
that there's no
As
funding.
long as everyone's aware,
Yep.
that way we're all being safe here. Okay. Thank you.
And just to clarify, I'm looking at, Mark, the spreadsheet that was attached to the budget. Ward
Yes.
Heitman House capital improvements, the agency request, made a request, however, there is no funding.
Correct.
So, in effect, that entity is not receiving any money.
Correct.
Okay. Are you comfortable, Councilman? Yes. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Up next is Communication E from Mayor Dorinda Boer regarding approval of an application for a Community Investment Fund CIF grant. May I have a motion to approve? From Finance?
Motion.
Second.
First and a second. Is there anybody in the audience that needs to speak to this? Any questions from the committee? Attorney Dorsey, do you have any information on the CIF grant, that just so that the council can be aware of what this is for?
Offhand, I remember writing the resolution.
Do you need a copy of it?
Yeah, I think if you have one handy, I'm sure I have one in my packet, but
So the communication says there's a $250,000 grant that the city will be applying for downtown planning, and will be funding the following: assessing the main downtown area of Campbell Avenue for future planning and development, a comprehensive public engagement efforts, project development and consulting fees, environmental testing reports, and construction design and planning. And there's a second grant in the amount of $250,000 for multi-purpose shoreline maritime planning, and we'll be funding a feasibility study to identify potential locations to increase maritime traffic and docking, comprehensive public engagement efforts, a study to determine what kind of vessels can best be supported by West Haven Coastline, and a preliminary design and permitting costs if feasible.
yeah, the maritime aspect of this is actually kind of exciting. We haven't had that kind of well, we've had plenty of studies done on the shoreline, but I don't think recently we've had too much activity with respect to what kind of vessels we can tend to in now or in the future with as development happens, as plans happen for the city. These grants have been around for a long time. They've started a lot of initiatives in a lot of municipalities, and I know the mayor. I can't speak for the mayor, but I know she's excited about both of these opportunities. These are planning grants, not necessarily construction grants, but they're planning grants.
Right. So my understanding is the way it works is that if we're awarded the money, then we could use that to fund the planning portion of the project, and then
Yes.
if we decide to move forward with part of the project, then there's other funding.
It would be other funding, yes.
Other funding sources available.
Right, and these are not. I believe it's in the communication that these are not refundable. In other words,
it's not. There's no matching portion.
Right.
According to the
exactly,
communication.
Exactly.
Okay. Any discussion on the committee? Any discussion from the council? Councilman Coletti?
Thank you, Chairman. The Community Investment Fund is a very specific fund from the state, made up of $875 million.
Correct.
There's only 55 municipalities across the state of Connecticut that were eligible for almost $1 billion. And this is, I think, the first time that West Haven is submitting an application for these funds. So I hope I'm pretty confident not only that we'll get this at the very least, but that the administration will push forward and follow up. They're already in round 5 of the funding. So I think to follow following the study of the 250, they'll be well aware due to the study of the intention of the study, and hopefully there'll be more funding to follow from the Community Investment Fund as it relates to the downtown planning. So
Exactly.
that's all I had to comment. Thank you.
An exciting first step.
Any other discussion from the council? I'm glad to see that we're finally taking advantage of all the funding sources that we have available
Absolutely.
to us. So I appreciate all the work that whoever put work into this to find these funds. I appreciate that. See no other discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? From the committee members. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. That concludes the business of the Finance Committee. Time is 8:40. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to Public Lands, Chairman Donovan.
Thank you, Chairman. The time is now 8:40. Committee on Public Lands is now in session. Members present: Councilman Locke, Councilwoman Callahan, Councilwoman Coletti, Councilman Johnstone, and myself acting as chair. We have before us Communication C, which is here, from Communication C from Mike Agello, Deputy Corporation Counsel, regarding the purchase of city-owned property located in front at the 24 Front Avenue. I'd like to entertain a motion to open it for discussion.
Motion.
Have a second? Read my mind, Mike. Alright, so, a couple concerns that I believe the committee had, or members, but, this piece of property.
Yep.
How useful is it to the city?
0.
Right. Is it a buildable lot?
No.
And on the map, it shows that, there's land and then there's a road. So who's gonna pay for the surveying?
The survey would be paid for by the Zors, who are the property owners of the contiguous piece at 28 Front Street. So what happens is the Zors reached out to the city and said that we are interested in 24 Front Street, which is owned by the city of West Haven. Would they consider selling it to us? So we take a look at it and we see that Clinton Place, which is the road that runs up along the side of it, is actually paved into this particular lot number 24. So there's probably 10%, 12%, just by a rough estimate, that's paved, that is part of Clinton Place. So what the Zors would have to do to take advantage of this would be to get a survey done of the portion that is remaining, the grass, I guess, and identify for us a property description of what's not the road that the city will retain. Obviously, we're going to retain the road, and they would just get the portion that they can then kind of absorb into their lot, that they could be useful for them as a yard. What it will do also is this property currently is of 0 value to the city of West Haven. We receive no taxes from it, and it does pose a liability issue. If somebody's walking along the sideway, they can trip and fall, and they could sue the city of West Haven. So by allowing the Zors to purchase it and absorb it into their lot, we put it on the tax rolls. It would be a tax, obviously they would have to pay the increased value of that, and we would not be liable, obviously, for the remaining portion of that property.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Councilwoman Callahan.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Hello.
Hey.
I just had a quick question on that. I went by it today myself and drove by, and I noticed in the back too, there's a business.
Yes.
And there's a fence and there's parking back there. Is that infringing on that at all right now?
That I'm not sure.
That would come out and maybe when they do the land survey?
Yeah, so if you look at the assessor's map of the larger portion,
Yeah.
it looks as if that kind of commercial property toward the back might be infringing on the back end of 28, 34, and the neighboring property over that. It doesn't appear to be infringing on number 24, but there's a line across it that might be the fence that you're talking about. But obviously that they shouldn't have a fence there if that's something that is associated with the commercial business in the back.
Right. Okay. So just, I guess that would come out with the survey.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
You're welcome.
All set? Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. Hey, Mike.
Hey.
So just for transparency purposes,
Yeah.
because I know someone's going to bring it up down the line. Recently, a while back, we had the sale of that debacle on Lake Ave, or the easement,
Yep.
or couldn't, right? Remember that?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, who could forget? So can you just walk through for clarity for everybody watching at home, whoever finds out, why the value is so different from what that lady paid to the one this one? I'm assuming part of it's a little smaller, but it's also the condition of the property, because I have the pictures I'm looking at in front of me on my phone from Councilman Donovan, that it is just completely overgrown.
Up
It's
front?
it's
Yeah.
it's a disaster. It's a liability. It's everything in between. So it's not just $1,000 to purchase it. We're talking the surveying. We're talking the clearing.
Well, the
Right.
purchaser would absorb that
Right,
cost.
exactly.
We don't pay for that. So, yeah.
So in a sense, we're making more than $1,000 because
Yes.
we're okay.
No, we'll be receiving real estate taxes on the property
Correct.
that we currently are not receiving.
Correct.
And we are absolving ourselves of any liability if somebody falls down or does whatever, because right now we can get sued for that. But once these people purchase it, they get sued for it.
That's a positive
Probably
way
not
to
a
look
good
at
sales
it.
pitch for that property. but-
Sure, why not? The insurance guys will be calling.
Yeah, we don't have to maintain it.
Right, and there's going to be some stipulation in there. Obviously.
Yeah. Are there sidewalks?
size of planning and zoning? They can't try to
Yeah.
squeeze some. Right,
Correct.
absolutely. That's all. Thank you, Mike.
Councilman
Thank you,
Donovan, do you
Chairman.
know if there's sidewalks in this area?
There is no sidewalks in that area.
Okay.
Not on that property. Anybody else from the committee? seeing none. Anybody? Oh, yep. Councilwoman Coletti.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I believe, would the survey be the only expense associated with the transfer of this property? Were they offering, I'm sorry, what, can you confirm the compensation that they're offering?
Sure, they were
or
offering
cover
$1,000
costs?
for the transfer. They would pay
Okay.
for, obviously, any expenses associated with the transfer of the property. The survey would be something that would be required.
Okay, so they would pay all associated
Yes.
expenses? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from the committee? Yep.
Sorry, I just had one more. What's the size of the property? Is it on here?
It's 40, it goes across 40 feet
40
by 150.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
40 feet by 150.
Thank you. Thank you. All set.
All right. Thank you. But even though it's 40 by 150, that's not what we're selling.
Correct. So 40 of that, there's a portion of that 40 that's paved. I mean, just to eyeball it, it's probably like 10 to 12 feet, maybe 15 feet. So the remaining, I'm not good at math. That's why I'm a lawyer. It's, it's 15 feet or whatever, 25 feet would be what would be
I just
transferred.
wanted to clarify that we weren't selling 40 by 150.
No, no.
We're selling
Just the remaining, whatever
a
is
sliver
not
of
paved.
that. So, all right, Councilwoman Coletti, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, to your point, I think that was Councilwoman Callahan's also thought that it's identical, basically, to the lot of the person that's wanting to purchase it.
Yes.
So, just to clarify, their lot is a buildable lot because
Right. But they're not paved, right? So they don't have a road going
but
through a
this
portion
lot,
of it. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But this lot would be cut almost in half
Yes.
by the survey, approximately.
Correct. So
it would render it not a buildable lot.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody else from the committee? Council as a whole. Councilman Vargo.
Thank you, Chairman. Hi, Mike.
Hey.
Does the city require any easements onto that part of the parcel for any work that has to be done on the road or utilities or underground piping or anything?
If there is something, obviously, if there's something that would probably be reflected in the current title, if there's
Okay.
easements for stuff like that, that would also be transferred over to the new.
Okay,
They
so-
would take it subject to those easements also.
So the potential purchaser is aware that our approval of this transfer tonight is going to be contingent upon the survey, and the boundary lines are going to be what they are. There's no negotiating that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be subject to any easement access that
Correct.
the city's going to require to maintain the road or any utilities or anything else. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Anybody else from the city council while he's there? Councilwoman Garthwaite.
Hi, Mike.
Hey.
I want to share with the council that this is a very big dumping area. I have reported numerous times as an at-large counselor, and I actually reported previously as District 2 councilwoman. I believe it will help alleviate the dumping. The lot is huge, and I'm wondering, I know the answer, but I'm just curious, do we have any type of appraisal for this?
We do not.
Okay.
I mean, I think to do an appraisal, obviously, you'd have to factor in that it's paved. A
Right.
portion of it's paved, and because it's paved, it's not a buildable lot. So it really doesn't pose. The only person it would have any value to was the guy next door, who could probably put a fence around it and kind of absorb it into his lot and make his yard a little bit bigger than it is right now.
Right. We also, just so the council knows, we also do have a lot of problems in the back of that area too. So I think that this will help clean that whole area up. But I'm not really a fan of the $1,000, but I think if it helps that area, it might be a good idea. Thank you.
You all set, Councilman? Anybody else on the council? Okay, seeing none, I would like to have the second, who was the second on this, Stace? Can you withdraw your second?
Withdraw mine.
And withdraw the motion?
I will withdraw.
Thank you. At this point, Chairman, I would like to set a public hearing for this on July 8th.
June 24th.
I mean, June, oh, sorry, yeah. Wow. June 28th? June 24 at 6:55.
Sounds good. That's June 24th.
I
That's
was giving up
6:50.
one meeting. I thought we were at the one meeting month already. Yeah, I know, right? Thank you. With that, your Committee on Public Lands is now closed at 8:51.
Okay, we will now convene to the whole council at 8:51. Moving on to unfinished business. We don't have any, but we will soon. And then back to committee reports. At this point, I will have the clerk read communication A and overpayment refunds into the record.
Communication A from the tax collector regarding overpayment refunds for May 2024, which will be filed with tonight's minutes.
Thank you very much. And now back to Councilman Vargo, Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of the approval of Communication C from the May 28, 2024 agenda from Ronald Dumas, CDA Housing Specialist regarding the Neighborhood Assistance Program budget, reports that the committee met on the 10th day of June 2024 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, that the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the following program for the 2024 Neighborhood Assistance Program under the Community Development Administration for the following: West Haven Child Development, $15,000, Ward Heitman House, $20,000, the West Haven Community House, $103,900, the 12 Steps Club, $20,000, and West Haven Youth Soccer Association, $3,000, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve a matter regarding the PY50 Neighborhood Assistance Program from the Community Development Administration. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
No opposed, no abstentions. Any abstentions? All right. Oh, yes, reminder on the microphones when you're voting. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of the approval of Communication D from the May 28, 2024 agenda from Mark Bisacchia, Manager of the Community Development Administration, regarding Block Grant Program Year 50 budget. Reports that the committee met on the 10th day of June 2024 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, that the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the attached CDA Community Development Block Grant Program Year 50 as submitted, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve a matter regarding the Block Grant Program Year 50 from the CDA. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of the approval of an application for a Community Investment Fund CIF grant, reports that the committee met on the 10th day of June 2024 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, that the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves and authorizes the City of West Haven to apply for a Community Investment Fund funding grant in the amount of $250,000 to fund downtown planning and development efforts, and further resolved that the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves and authorizes the City of West Haven to apply for a community funding grant in the amount of $250,000 to fund multi-purpose shoreline and maritime planning and development efforts, and further resolved that Dorinda K. Boer, as mayor of the City of West Haven, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents related to this resolution on behalf of the City of West Haven, and to do and perform all acts and things which she deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents, and I so move.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion to approve a matter regarding the approval of an application for a CIF grant. Do I have a second?
Second.
There we go. Any discussion? Nothing more? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the matters of the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Last we had public lands, and we set a public hearing for a undetermined date in the future. Wait a minute, that's wrong. It was for June 24th at 6:55. All right. Thank you. Action on ordinances previously presented. We have none. Does anybody have a community liaison report they would like to share? Councilwoman Coletti.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just like to remind everyone that the Small Business Forum is happening tomorrow starting at 8:30 in the morning. It's open to all RSVP. All of the posts are online. I don't have the email right in front of me, but even if you haven't RSVP'd and you own a small business or you have an interest in a small business in West Haven, please show up. Last I heard, I've heard numbers between 55 and 95 small businesses have signed up already. And so it looks to be an extremely successful forum. It's also the place where you can learn about the $10,000 micro grants for facade, HVAC, et cetera, ARPA funds improvements to be awarded by a small committee. And that was it for economic development. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that the reason the mayor's not here tonight is she had a veterans event that she had gone to this evening. I spoke to her earlier on. Usually we get an update from her, so we will miss that tonight. Any other liaison reports before we move on? Johnstone, Councilman Johnstone.
Thank you, Chairman. In regards to public comment from previous this evening, there are some plans in place for water pollution and sewer. Things have been ignored for a long time. The mayor and her administration have been very active getting things moving. Unfortunately, some things take time, and the biggest unfortunate part is things down there, as Councilwoman Coletti can agree with me, is it's very expensive. So there has to be a certain process, but there are things in motion. The mayor is very involved with every step of the way. So just so the public's aware, there's a lot of wheels in motion, and the mayor's got a lot on her plate, but she is aware. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Collette. No, Councilwoman Callahan.
C to C to C. Thank you, Chairman. An update on Marginal Drive. We keep continuing our cleanup on Saturdays, the first Saturday of the month between 9 and 11. It's continually a problem with dumping. So we're hoping to get New Haven and West Haven together to maybe come together with this, and half is New Haven, half is West Haven, that side of the street, and it just continues to be a constant dumping ground. So much so that we clean it up and I go back the next day and it's back the same. A lot of contractors have a habit of just driving by there and throwing out their trays and ladders and all kinds of stuff. I got an update today about all stuff that was dumped again. So maybe down the road we can talk about if we have some extra funds for cameras, we can put one or two there. That might be an option. But just the liaison report is about the update on Marginal Drive. And it's coming forward. We are cleaning it up every Saturday.
I thought there was a plan for a camera down there. Just I think
I hope
through
so.
discussion, I think
Yeah.
they determined that was a high area of interest.
Right.
Let's hope it comes through.
Right. And also, to reiterate, Ms. Coletti, Councilwoman Coletti, that I went around to a lot of businesses and tried to reach out to as many as possible as well in this, and we all did in all the districts. I think it's going to be a great turnout tomorrow. It is at 8:30 at the high school in the auditorium, and in the lecture hall, right? And thank you. And the other liaison report was over the weekend. The Historical Society had an open house that I attended, and it was really, really interesting and very cool. There's a lot of things I learned about West Haven, that we actually had a brewery back in the day. So anyway, they were successful with it, and good for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Absolutely. Councilwoman Heffernan.
I just wanted everyone to know Juneteenth at the Watt Park was wonderful, and Mackie did an amazingly great job as the MC, and the music was great. Mackie, you did a wonderful job. Thank you. It was a wonderful time. Thanks for the invitation.
I am very sorry I was working. Any other liaison reports? Moving on to new business. Anybody have any new business? Councilman Locks.
Thanks, Chairman. I move that the council add to the new business section of our agenda, and that's for June 24th, that a project plan and status of the Kerrigan Boiler Project, including the mitigation strategies for long lead time items such as the boilers, to make sure that that testing is complete mid-September. And then the other item is a project plan for the Lake Street project, including financing status, procurement cycle status, specification finalization, defined scope of work, supply decisions, and fully executed contracts in place for that June 24th meeting.
All right. Let's just we'll make a note on the tape here to have the council admin add this to unfinished business so that it's something that rolls around on the agenda every time.
Okay.
I think that's probably the best, unless we determine that another area is good for it, which I'll talk to Stacy about after the meeting. But
no worries.
Okay. We'll look to add that on.
And the expectation would be monthly report outs so that we understand where the project sits.
Sounds good. Yeah. Councilwoman Coletti?
Just as an additional point of information, Kathleen Krolak, we created a project manager position for this very reason. I think there was no really central point of contact that was responsible for not only reporting out on capital projects, but kind of pushing them along. So along with Mr. Fontana being hired as Economic Development Director, sorry, I want to get her name right. Ms. Krolak was also hired as the project manager. So you may want to speak with Mayor Borer, possibly when she settles, to perhaps be invited to kind of also,
Right.
give us a reporting on project status.
Now, would it be sufficient to have her come talk to us once and then maybe submit something in writing so that there's no costs associated with it afterwards, or would you like to see her every time?
Oh, I think a monthly report out is justified.
Okay.
I know a lot of constituents have asked me about the status of projects.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to the paving.
Right.
And there's, no viable status.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that people want to see.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Sure. Go ahead. You have a. Do you feel we need a motion to do this, or should we just add on to?
I'm asking you.
Does the body want to have a motion on this, or are they all okay? Viva okay saying. Oh, okay. No, I don't think we need a motion for it. I think it's something. Accountability is always good.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Robert's rules, a vote should be taken on this. That's how it works.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So it's it's your call. You're the chairman. Yes. Yeah, for future. Yeah, it should be voted on.
Right. He read these two things. So, well, how about as presented, and we'll use this as the exhibit. Right.
So if you're gonna do it that way, then maybe as you read it, set a second.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion on the floor regarding these two items. That's to recap. It's a project plan and status on the Kerrigan Boiler project. And also a project plan with details on the Lake Street project as outlined in the email that I will turn in. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
All right, perfect. Any discussion further on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One opposed? Yep. Okay. And any abstentions? All right, motion carries by majority.
May I just have a point of order? To add to a future agenda, you have to do this? You have to make a motion and vote?
For those two items, to put it on unfinished business, we decided to. I'm not sure if that
Okay.
is the
Okay.
case, but I'm
Thank
going to
you.
go with Brian's word on that, or Councilman Locke's word on that. Makes it a little bit more official, right? Yes. Any other new business? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Everybody have a good night. Thank you.
Maybe something should be in here. You get up. Wait.